Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to have a post-lunch. I think for somebody it will be pre-lunch also. It's an interesting session, but feel free to ask whatever questions we have. We have a nice panel here, but few of the speakers, especially one of my good colleague who did a lot of work on how to be friendly to the environment in looking at waste we generate. Unfortunately, she's not able to join. She's Casey Thale from New York, but she has given a beautiful presentation, and I have that for you. I'll run that for you sometime in between. But basically, this was specially invited by AOS or the AIOC conference for this year to kind of bring in orientation towards how friendly we need to be to the environment. We know what's happening across the globe. I'll just quickly start with an introduction, and then we have some excellent presentations, especially one on how to be energy efficient. We have somebody from a company called Smart Joules. It's one of the smartest way they are doing business. So they're going to share their ideas, and also we'll look at some case studies of green hospitals which have been recently done. Can I have the presentation? Right. So Susan knows this picture, right? So this happened a couple of weeks back. A friend from Chicago sent me this. He said Pondicherry, Vellore is 24, and Chicago is minus 26, worse than Antarctica. And later it became minus 30, 35 also, a couple of days later. So that's how things are changing. So we saw very bad floods even in my place where I come from, Pondicherry, and in Kerala very recently. All these are related to certain things we do day to day. So this is something very interesting. It's called Earth Overshoot Day. So this is basically calculated for every country, like what is the resources you have for that particular year, and at what period of time you overshoot that resources. It may be water, it may be the other important resources which you need for your day to day. So if you see almost some places like where Susan comes from, it's March 4th. March 4th, they overshoot what they need. And then they start using what is needed for the following years. So this is what we are talking about, why the snow is melting in Antarctica, or some of the changes which we see in the climate, like what you saw in Chicago. So for every country, India is somewhere here, but it is not in the picture. But somewhere by September, August, we are overshooting. So we need to really understand why we are overshooting. So these are the Sustainable Development Goals, which are supposed to transform our world to the next level. And the 11 and 12 are very important. Sustainable cities and communities, and responsible consumption and production. And 13 is the climate action. So this is very important. So how are we going to be very responsible in the way we consume things, whatever be, at home or in our practice or in our hospital, and also how we are going to see how these things are produced. Because if you see everything, there is a production, and then there is a transit of it before it is delivered and before you use. Even if you just take your sleeves or your drapes which you use, we are just seeing at the plastic there. But there's so much of energy which is used in producing these drapes. There's the water used, the sources material for it, the factory, the electricity, and then it is being transported to your store, and then it comes to the hospitals from a central area. So there is a lot of energy which is consumed by the time it reaches the end user. And then only we talk about wasting it or recycling and things like that. So we need to be aware of all this to some extent. And the sustainability is a big concern for healthcare. And there are very beautiful 2 publications which came in Lancet. One says climate change is the biggest global health threat of the 21st century. And again, it says, tackling this I think it's the biggest, the greatest global health opportunity is also for us. There is a threat and there is an opportunity for us. So somewhere we need to kind of tie up and say, no, there is an opportunity for us to be a part of how we can avoid this climate change. So WHO has come with certain guidelines for healthy hospitals, healthy planet, and also healthy people, looking at addressing these issues on climate change and in healthcare settings. So they give the 7 areas where you need to really focus. As a provider for eye care, we run either clinics or hospitals, or we are a part of a bigger system. So we have to look at energy efficiency. If we are building a new building or we have an existing building, so one of my architect came last week. Many of you know, Asim knows. Asim, post lunch? So, wake up call. So Asim knows the architect very well. Our architect Nyanraj, he walked a couple of weeks back, and he saw the hall was dark. And he said, this is supposed to be an energy efficient building. You just remove the screen, it's going to bring light inside. Why do you want so many lights inside? Just by removing the screen, we said, oh my God, so many days we have been running all these tube lights or the LED lights. Now, get rid of them. Switch off at least daytime when you don't need. So things like that, we need to look at how our existing buildings can become green, or if you're going to build, how are we going to build green building designs. Alternate energy generation. I'm sure you're all trying in different ways, getting solar, getting windmills and things like that, but solar is becoming a big hit now. The cost was so high, but the cost is coming down. There's a lot of subsidy for solar. So we can generate a lot of energy, especially in our country when we have sun across the year, we can definitely exploit this. Transportation, this is one area which we least see, right? So this not only talks about transportation of staff or the paramedical or the doctors who are coming, but also you have to think about the transportation of patients. How are we going to reduce that? So for example, if you are going to do a test on a different day, for example, you give an appointment for a fluorescein or an appointment for a laser, which you can do on the same day. If you are asking them to come on a different day, again, you think of the transport which he has to do. See, normally we don't think like that, So when he's going to travel, he's going to come in a vehicle, his own vehicle or a public vehicle. There seems to be a lot of carbon footprint related to travel. So can we reduce? We have some commitment in reducing. So we have to look into transportation. Food is a major area of concern. I mean, when we walk out into the dining hall, we'll know how much of food is being wasted and the water bottles and things like that. Let us not get into that politics. But you have to see how we can kind of take care of this issue. And then the waste generated. How are we going to optimally kind of make sure the waste we generate is recycled? Now people are talking about upcycling. How many of you know what is upcycling? You can make something beautiful with the recycled things. So people are there now kind of upcycling. So, but can we optimally recycle a lot of things? And finally, it's so important. We know it's one of the depleting resources, especially in a country like India. There are some places where it's flooded, and then some places in the country in the same season you have droughts. So we need to conserve water and also see how we can kind of regenerate or kind of make our land water rich for the future. So when we talk about environment, you can see the number of people here in the hall. That itself shows how much of interest is there in this area. But basically, I think people who are here are people who are trying to be friendly should take the concept that if you are making this impact, which is social, you have an environmental impact on it, and more than that, you can make profit. If you're going to optimally use your resources, if you're going to be energy efficient, if you're going to recycle your waste, I can share with you some of the things which others do and even we do. There is a financial implications to it. So you're going to become more richer. So if you're going to become more richer, you're going to take care of more people. So that's where Smart Jules will also share with you some of their ideas of how they make hospitals richer. So ideally, we are trying to make sure that we give a sustainable eye care. No, we need to sustain whatever work we do. So if we can take care of these 3 Ps, the people, planet, automatically there is profit, which can sustain our eye care delivery. So just to show you a study, there are not many work done related to this, but this one is a kind of a landmark work which came from UK some years back, looking at carbon footprint of cataract surgery. They say that a single phaco, no, that means the reusables you use for it, the traveling of the patient, the review follow-up, and things like that. They take into consideration a lot of things. It's equivalent to 180 kg of carbon equivalents. So even now, when you fly, the tickets, especially I think I saw in Emirates and some other aircrafts also, they say when you're flying from Dubai to San Francisco, how much of carbon equivalent is there to carry you? Now, how much of emission is there for carrying you from this point to that point? So you can calculate exactly the carbon emissions. And we have done that also for the cataract surgery we do at Aravind. But basically for everything you can calculate the carbon emission. And they say this 180 kg is equivalent of driving a car 500 kilometers. So you're going from point 1 to point 2. So that much of carbon equivalents you're producing, but just doing one phacoemulsification. And over 50% of these greenhouse gas emissions originates in procurement of supplies. Now the way it's, I told you the story of the drape, no, or the story of your sleeves and tips and things like that. So procurement almost takes 50%. And if you see in our surgery, lot of times now, it's not in our control, everything has become single use now. You have to open, throw it at the end of the case. So we are also caught up with things like this, which are why it's needed in eye care, because eye care is one area where there's real high volume. You know, whether be a single practice or a corporate or a hospital with a lot of beds, eye care is done in a high volume. Even a regular surgeon in a semi-urban or a rural setting also would do 100 to 200 cataract surgeries in a month, maybe around 1,500 to 2,000. So that kind of volume we are seeing in a country like India, where there is a high surgical throughput, and cataract surgery is the selective surgery, and we do a lot of this surgery. Just to show you what is the global volume of cataract, around 26 million surgeries is performed in 2017. So a lot from India. You know the numbers in India. You know, almost I think 1/3 of these numbers are done in India now. And the procedure volume is growing at a compounded rate of 3.1%. Every year it is increasing. And it's also driven by a lot of demographic changes and healthcare. And if not in India, in most of the Western world, 2/3 of this is in the form of phacoemulsification, where there is a lot of reusables and it's all used one time. So in this context, now I just want to share with you some of the practices. I'm sure many of you would have some good practices also, which you can also share with us. But I'll just start with some of the things which we do back at home. So when we take about any hospital, right, if you take the footprints, you know, there is an access to care. Somebody has to travel to reach to a hospital. And then you have footprints related to diagnosis, and then advising of the treatment, and then footprint related to treatment and also follow-up. If you just take a cataract surgery, no patient comes for a regular test, he is not prepared, so he has been advised for a certain procedure. Then you would come back on the next review or a week or whatever time period when you would do a biometry and other investigations, and then the next day, if it's a daycare, he will come the next day morning for a surgery, and you would like to follow him on the next day, then again next day he would travel. So every time there is a lot of travel related, and there is a lot of footprint related to this travel. So there is transport of staff, patients, visitors, suppliers, and there is a lot of carbon footprint related, as I said, in the procurement of goods and services, in the energy use, and also finally the waste we generate from a lot of these single-use things. So definitely we can kind of be energy efficient through operational efficiency and also doing a lot of conservation measures. Here we are not trying to compromise on any quality. No, we are just trying to set some standards, and people a lot of times try to follow those standards. So this is just to show the numbers. Many of you know what Arvind is seeing in a year, almost 4.17 million outpatients and close to 500,000 surgeries, and of which 50% are either steeply subsidized. So one thing which we have been doing, I think many of you would do also, now have a non-appointment system. So patient can walk in at any time, between the daytime. So you can finish off the examination. If he needs any special investigations, then we can proceed for an appointment or review them in the next day or a following week. So that's one way where we try to access a lot of, give an access open for a lot of people. And this hub and spoke model really helps. So wherever we have a volume of patients coming up, it may be a semi-urban rural area, we try to put secondary care centers or even primary care centers, so that these patients need not travel for unnecessary things, by getting a presbyopic glasses or just for removal of a foreign body. But only thing, we'll have to make sure that you have a kind of a robust way of making sure that quality is not compromised, maybe in the form of measuring their intraocular pressure or documenting their fundus. So if we can do that, we can do that by assuring the quality. We can have a lot of these hub and spoke models which can reduce the carbon footprint related to patient travel. And for example, in many of our outreach, or most of our outreach, we give glasses at the campsite. So we take some ready-made glasses, frames. So many of the time when eye camps are done, people take order and then the patients have to come back or it is couriered to them. So there is again a kind of, you can miss some patients. But if you can give the glasses on spot, the acceptance is better, and also the access is better, and you can also reduce the carbon footprint related to this. And transporting the patients. So those days we were doing surgery eye camps. We were going to the camp setting, setting up an operating room and operating. Now, it was ideal 20 years, 30 years back. But now bringing the patients in a group, bringing them in one bus to the base hospital, we can assure quality. At the same time, we can reduce the carbon footprint. If each one of these patients has to come on their own, I'm sure there is a lot of energy which is used in transporting or traveling these patients. So bringing them in a group definitely makes it much better. The work process or the workflow which you do in your system. So every hospital would have some similar things like this, where in an eye hospital we register and then you escort them to an optometrist where a refraction is done, and then you measure and do some basic investigations, and then a preliminary test is done, dilatation, final test. So a lot of this activities happen. But to do this efficiency, I think we should make sure that one person is trained to do this task really well. They perform this job really well. It's kind of repetitive job, but if you can find the right person to do it, you can rely them. Many of you rely on your paramedical on their biometry. But sometimes we don't rely them on an intraocular pressure. But if you have a way of training them, auditing their reports and making sure they are sustaining a good quality, we can allow them to do that investigation or the procedure. So by doing this, one person, one task, we can bring in an efficiency in the system. And also we can very effectively utilize the equipment. If there is OCT lying there, and whenever you have to go and operate it, it operates. We can't bring in an efficiency. So if somebody is doing that job, you send the patient and you get the report back. Or you send a patient for an A scan and you get the report back, or whatever investigation you want. That brings a lot of utilization of equipment and also brings efficiency into the system. And this is very important thing, standardizing the procedures, bringing in a kind of assembly line into your system, either be OPD management or in surgery. More so in surgery, if we can bring an assembly line, we can bring a lot of efficiency. Like again, certain steps are done by certain people. Cleaning of eye, giving an anesthesia, either subtenons or retrobulbar, whatever you do in a volume. And then if you have twin table system, like what we do, or depending upon what is your regulations, you can have 2 operating rooms or whatever it is. But if we can bring a system in place where everything is kind of standardized, then you can perform that procedure in a much quicker time. So we have repeatedly proven that by just giving 2 table and also 2 paramedical to assist, couple of nurses to do running. A normal surgeon can easily do 6 to 8 surgeries per hour. So by doing this, your electricity is the same, the way you're using the equipment is the same, but your output is going to be high. But at the same time, if you're going to have 1 table, 1 assisting, so even if you have 8 cases, you would be doing for the next 5 to 6 hours those 8 cases. So can I finish off the list quickly, without, again, I want to insist the point, without compromising the quality. So making sure your patients also, if they are prepared for a cataract surgery, you make sure if you can do all the tests, including the systemic workup, and operate on the next day, you will be saving a lot of energy. So this is the same point, but again, in treatment, I think it's so important that we need to complete the whole cycle. So wherever possible, if you can close the loop, like for example, he needs a OCT or he needs an FFA, if you can do that test, if he's prepared and if you can do that test, you finish off in the same day, I'm sure you can bring in a lot of efficiency in treatment and you can reduce the carbon footprint also. And giving the glasses and treating the patients for surgery if they are prepared. So this is one area which I just touched upon in my introduction about how these are related to carbon footprint. Because in operating, it's high energy consuming area. You have a lot of equipment, your microscope, your phaco machines, even your recording systems, your anesthetist who is standing by with the monitor. So there are a lot of equipments and a lot of surgical instruments involved. And these consumables are high. The cost is very high. The sleeves, the tips, the tubings, sometimes you have to change for every case at the end of the day. So there are a lot of things which you consume here. And there is a complex waste which is generated. And I'm sure this usage of RO water now, again, see the kind of water we use now to make RO, how much of sludge it exits. Almost 30 to 40% of water is going as sludge sometimes. The whole water is being wasted. But sometimes we need this for cleaning and sterilization. So if you are going to have a good system in place, I'm sure you can reduce all these things which will optimally be utilized. So this is just to show how we normally do, and many of you do like this. Just by increasing the number of sets and the team which assist, we can increase the number of surgeries a surgeon can perform. And a lot of times, we're not very sure what we can share, especially in the supplies. For example, if your phaco machine is on with the tubing, do we have to change the whole set for every case? We're not very sure. There's no very good evidence to say whether we should change for every case, because nobody has done randomized trials saying that 1 table versus 2 table, or removing a cassette after every case and putting another thing. We don't have good trials to say, but we have evidence to say, by using or by removing at the end of the day, by changing only the tip on the sleeve or your IA handpiece, your infection rates are equal or much better than Western standards. But we have a lot of evidence to say this, but we don't have any good trials or studies which have randomized this to see and find out whether which is safe. But thing is, how we are going to share the supplies, with your experience, and which is safe, you have to make sure, and you have to minimize the use of single-use instruments wherever possible. After very careful sterilization, in between flash sterilization, end of the day, full cycle, optimally reusing some single-use instruments and maintaining your supply chain. And also the most important thing is segregating waste. Segregating waste is very, very critical. So how are you going to kind of separate the waste at the source? If you can really separate the waste at source, you can make a big difference in the waste, recycling of waste. Many of the times we don't separate it properly at source. When I mean source, right in the operating room when you operate. So I'll just show you some of the things which we do. Now this is the material flow and waste disposal. If you see the linen which is used for dress and gowns, at the end of the session they go for washing and then CSST. Surgical instruments, in between flash, and then end of the day to the central supply. and trays and pans in the same way. Surgical gloves, now in between cases we use the antiseptic, hand rub which we use, and then at the end of 10th case we change a glove, or it's disposed at the end of 10th case. Syringe and tubings are again disposed. Sharps, needles and blades again for every case. Cotton swabs like this are disposed after immediate usage. Plastic tray packing material, which you use for covering the eye, or the packing material you use, but you see the color. If you can remove the paper and the plastic separately, you can definitely optimally, or you can recycle it in a very well manner. If you don't do that, it's very, very difficult after that to kind of do it. And then finally, medicines, consumables, containers, again, how you can be easily recycled. We can do it if you do it at source. So just to show you the kind of waste we generate, lot of things which has to go out, the biomedical waste, this resaleable waste. If you can do this separation in the operating room, all this can go for sale. And it can also generate revenue for it. But at source, if you don't do it, it's very difficult to do it outside. And then the people who want those for resale may not be really interested in our stuff. So if we can do it optimally, I'm sure we can send it for a lot of resale. And transport I touched upon to begin with. This is one area which many of you can focus. If you're starting new hospitals, or your plan of building hospitals, the best thing is to have quarters inside the hospital. Nikhil and Rajiv used to walk, right? So your team can just walk to the hospital. So you think of somebody coming in city like Bombay, Delhi, every 1 hour they say, I go from this practice to that practice. So many of the time you are in transit. You are traveling from one place to other place. There's so much of time is wasted, and also carbon footprint related to this travel. So how do we minimize this transport, not only for our patients, but also for our staff? We need to look into it. And promoting like this, like for example, we were reviewing our patients in the base hospital when we do a daycare cataract surgery. And we were also sending them to city center where we had doctor, but we never thought of reviewing them in vision center, daycare patients. So sometime back, one of my patient, when I was operating to her, she is near to a vision center, but I was operating, I was talking to her, and she said, can I see in this vision center? I said, why? Why do you want to see in that? She said, I have rented that building. So the clinic is right under my house. So can I review there? I said, why don't we do this? What stops us from doing this? There are paramedical there. They are doing telemedicine. The main issue is if there is going to be something like a cortex or iritis or some hypopion, let them send them to the base hospital. You're not going to miss anything. So why don't we try this? And we tried this, and within a few months, almost 20% of our daycare patients were going to vision centers for review. So this reduced the burden in the base hospital, and also it kind of increased the appearance of the vision center. A lot of people came to know about vision center because these patients were going for review. They were taking their relatives to the vision center. So by doing some changes like this incrementally, I'm sure you can bring in a lot of energy efficiency, and you can reduce carbon footprint. So this is the building which I was talking about. This is designed to be green, but sometimes we have buildings where there's a lot of light coming inside, where you have a lot of open things, but still we try to close it and air condition it. In north of India, seasonally, we know a lot of changes in climate, but depending on what is our need, I think we have to design green buildings, at least for the future, where we bring in a lot of natural light, and also we have garden and vegetation. And the alternate energy, where I'm not going to touch upon areas where Faris, who's from Smart Joule, is going to talk, but I think we have to look into alternate energies. You can save a lot of money if you can do that. For example, in all our Arvind now we have extensive solar panels, and also we do, because we have a lot of land, especially in Pondicherry. This doesn't happen everywhere. We grow our own paddy. We have a kitchen garden which can take care of the needs of the canteen and the nursing hostel. And we also create a lot of awareness to the staff and patients to kind of not to waste food. We say that yesterday 15 kgs of food was wasted. Can you help us to reduce it? Things like that, just to critically kind of open their eyes to this. And we have something called the DWATS, Decentralized Wastewater Treatment Plant. This is one of the biggest in Southeast Asia. It filters around 300,000 liters of water daily. And then almost 90% is recycled and used again for gardening. So it recharges the groundwater. And also, we do a lot of rainwater harvesting, which is possible by every one of you, whether you have a small or a bigger facility. Just to summarize this, I think if you create a good access for people to get into eye care, if you're a bigger center, then starting smaller hub and spoke models would be efficient. And designing efficient and productive work processes where you can complete most of the test in a single day so that the patient need not travel up and down for several investigations and procedures. And if you can close the loop and complete the cycle on the same day, it will be good. Ensuring your efficiency and productivity, especially in the operating room, and very carefully reusing your surgical instruments and supplies. And if you can share your surgical supplies and you have systems to generate alternative energy and also to recycle water, it will be good. So this is just to kind of bring in a thought process into this. I'm sure many of you would be doing some practices, but the ideal ball game would be to bring in a change so that the message would spread to a wider audience. Even if these 10, 20 people here can take the message and say, we've learned something out of this, so that we're going to practice in our own clinic or in our hospital, I think that will be a big change. So I'll invite Faris Ahmed from Smart Jewels. So he's come all the way just to give this talk. Thank you, Faris, for that. As the name goes, they're Smart Jewels. They are very smart people. I'll let him explain how that model works.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, sir, for giving a wonderful speech on environment and sustainability and how we can save energy efficiency, how we can save energy. I'm Faris Ahmed. Before starting the presentation, I would like to introduce myself. I am Faris Ahmed. I'm working in Smart Jewels as energy analyst. So I'm here to deliver a talk on can protecting environments be profitable. So before stepping into the session, I would like to ask you a few questions. How many of you have seen your energy utility bills? Okay, so what is the amount? Any idea?
Brad, you have any idea?
Too high. Okay, cool. So do you have any idea of total energy consumed by your hospital per day? No. Okay, I'll show you a few examples. How many of you work in air-conditioned rooms? Most of them. Cool. So are you saving energy on day-to-day basis? Yes or no? No. Then that's a bad habit. And why it's a bad habit, you will come to know. And it is a crime too. So the present scenario, nowadays, people are more concerned about their health and they are coming to hospitals to get treatment. So on day-to-day basis, the number of beds that an Indian wants is increasing in the healthcare sector. So when the number of beds is increasing, at the same time, the number of hospitals is also increasing. So people are more relying on multi-specialty hospitals. But when we compare the old hospital, like the government hospital with the multi-specialty hospital with the same capacity and the same number of beds, the multi-specialty hospital is consuming 10 to 15 times more than all hospitals. And next practice is people or the facility will be using diesel to either fire the facility, or they will be using this diesel to either provide the hot water to the building. And what is the impact of that? Climate change is the impact. It is affecting the environment as well as the people. So this is a message. how important are hospitals? Out of the total energy which is being produced in India, 9% of is consumed by commercial buildings. I'm not taking account of residential buildings, only commercial buildings, out of which 12% is consumed by hospitals, which is equivalent to 10 billion units per year. And this can power 80 lakh Indians per year. So now you know why it is a crime. If you are not saving any energy in your facility, then an household is not going to get lighted up. Okay. So what is government trying to do in eliminating energy wastage? So there are multiple ways, like renewables, efficiency, biofuels, nuclear fuels, CCS, carbon capture. There are a lot of ways to reduce the GHG, greenhouse gas emissions. But government has decided to eliminate the energy wastage or to bring down the greenhouse gas emissions through energy efficiency only. And in the future, they are trying to invest 35,000 rupees to bring down the energy, to eliminate the energy wastage through energy efficiency only, not through renewables or any other source of energy, alternative energy. And where do hospitals consume energy? You know you are consuming energy, but you don't know where it is consumed and how much it is consumed. So see, nearly 50% is consumed by air conditioning equipments. Centralized air conditioning equipments is consuming 30%, while HVAC pump is consuming 9%, and for ventilation, 9%. So altogether, 50% for air conditioning, for lighting 10%, hot water generation 10%, and medical equipments coming around 18 to 20%. So at the end of so now you know where the energy is being consumed in your facility. So at the end of the month, you will be getting a bill from the power distributor. And your thought will be this: when I was young, I was scared of the dark. Now when I see my electricity bill, I am scared of the lights. Okay. And after receiving the energy bill, your reaction will be this. And this is so I am quoting an example, like this is the energy bill for one of the hospital in Delhi, and the energy bill for a particular month of October in the year 2015 is 46.75 lakhs. Do you think they can reduce the energy bill from 46 to any number? Maybe 1 lakh they can reduce. Let's see. What can you do to reduce the energy consumption in your facility? So first is the design. There are two, like your facility will not be having a proper design. Either it will be over-designed or it will be under-designed. When it is under-designed, then you are not going to get proper comfort. When it is over-designed, then the energy will be lost. So either of the cases, bad impact is there. So we have to make sure that the design is proper in the facility. When you are choosing an equipment, when you are choosing an air conditioning equipment, anything, you have to focus on design. And that is easy, as well as it's coming in between easy and cheap. Now, equipment. You can replace the equipment. You can replace the existing equipment or the older equipments with the state-of-the-art new equipment, which is having less power consumption and which is energy efficient. But it is expensive. But why it is expensive? Because the technology doesn't come, cheap. So you have to invest. But the hospital doesn't have the sufficient financial capability to invest in equipment. Because of that, they are losing energy. And next one, behavior. This is cheap and difficult to obtain. For example, suppose, I will tell you one example. Suppose if you are working in a hospital or in a room, and if you are having an AC in your room, and while you are coming into the room, you will be turning on the AC and you will be putting the set point to 16 degrees Celsius. And what they will do is that they will open the doors and they will forget to close the doors. So first what they will do is that they want the existing air to go out so that fresh air can come in and they can work in a comfort environment. What they will do is that they will open the doors, at the same time they will put the set point in 16 degrees Celsius. But for our comfort, we need only 25 degrees Celsius. So what he can do is that he can change the set point from 16 to 25 degrees Celsius. At the same time, he can close the doors. But why he is not doing that? Because it's problem with his behavior. And it doesn't come cheap also. It is difficult to obtain. So 1% increase, 1 degree increase in set point can give you 6% savings in your energy bill through ACs. If you are having 100 ACs in your facility, you will be getting around maybe like quite number, like you will be getting sufficient savings that you won't even notice. And the next one is operations. Operations is like, it's very cheap, and this is the one I like the most, but the problem is that people won't follow it, and it is also difficult to obtain. The problem is that, for example, in one of the hospitals, I will quote you one example. In one of the hospitals, in dietary, they have to operate from 8 to 6. They have to turn on the AHU, air handling unit, from 8 to 6. But due to the operational inefficiency, like they have to turn it on at 7 so that it can turn it on at 8 so that when people start coming at 9, they'll be getting sufficient cooling. But what they will do is that they will come at 6 and they will turn it on. So it has been started 2 hours earlier. And at the same time, in the evening, they will turn it off at 8. So they are turning it off at 8 p.m. So post-scheduled also. Pre-scheduled starts and post-scheduled off. So altogether, they are running the air handling unit for 4 hours unnecessarily. So for 4 hours, for 30 days, into 12 months, they are losing a lot of energy. You can calculate it. So next one, what you can do. You cannot improve what you cannot measure. And keep measuring. When you keep measuring only, you will come to know that where we are losing energy, where are the gaps, and how we can measure it. So after measuring, you have to make some actions, take some actions on it. So you can put a BMS system, building monitoring system. On the left side, you can see a chiller. In chiller is the heart of the central air conditioning unit, which supplies cold water to all the areas of the facility, through which it goes to the AHU. From AHU, the cold air is generated and it is sent to different zones. And on the right, you can see outside, it's a graph which is consisting of 3 lines. One of the liners, the blue line, depicts chill water set point. What is a chill water set point? The water which is coming out from the chiller and it's supplied to the whole building. And the rest of the 2 things are humidity, outside air temperature and humidity. So see, the outside air temperature and humidity is changing while coming from morning till evening. So like in morning, it will be 30 degrees Celsius, but at night it will be 25 degrees Celsius. So the temperature is decreasing. But see the set point remains the same of the chiller. And what we did was, we conducted a test. We fluctuated the set point from 48 and 49 in 2 points for a particular day. And we came to know that 1 degree change in set point can give 3% savings. So we increased the sample period from 1 day to 1 week for 7 different points. 7 different points we did. And we came to know that we can save more energy. And we continued the same experimentation for multiple sample period for multiple set points. And what we got was, and see, we have already installed a chiller in one of the facility, and which is the state-of-the-art equipment which is energy efficient. And the blue line shows the chiller without BMS system, building monitoring system. We are not doing any monitoring. And see the consumption, it is 2,500. And when on the year 2018, we put our BMS in the facility, and we started monitoring and control the chiller. And what happened was 700 units was saved on a particular day. 700 units into 10 rupees, 7,000 rupees per day. Into 30 days, 2,10,000 rupees per month. Only just changing the set point of the chiller. Continuously measuring, monitoring and optimizing, and generating savings. And you will be seeing a point in between, like one of the point is going rooftop. That happened because they started the older equipment, which was in the facility, their facility. We have already installed a new equipment in their facility, which is energy efficient, But what they did was on that particular day, they started their older equipment and it went rocket high, about 2,700. So see, we need state-of-the-art equipment. At the same time, we need monitoring systems to bring energy savings. Similarly, you can follow the same procedure for other assets also, like pumps, cooling towers, AHUs, everywhere. And you have to, and the capital investment is only 1 lakh rupees to monitor, visualize, and record everything. You have to spend only 1 lakh rupees initially, and 5,000 per month. So next one is ceiling fans. You might think that it won't give much savings, but it's not a myth, it's a reality. I'll show you. So all the fans which is having induction motor will consume 70 watts per hour. Okay. So if it's running for 18 hours a day for 260 days a year, and if the electricity cost is 10 rupees, then see, the annual energy expenditure is 3,276. And see, the modern fans. These are BLDC fans, brushless DC motor fans, which is having, the cost is higher, twice, but see the energy consumption and the annual energy bill. It is nearly half. Nearly half. So you can cut down your energy bills by placing energy efficient fans like BLDC fans in your facility. A small change can bring big revenue. And set point management. I told you, most of the people won't change the set point of the ACs. There might be 200 ACs or 300 ACs in your facility, and you'll be keeping your ACs in 16-degree set point. At the same time, you'll be opening the doors. So throughout the day, the door will be open and the set point will be at 16 degrees Celsius. So you are losing a lot of energy. And in pumping. So this is an older pump which is in one of our facility before Smart Joules went there. So it was having a head of 100 feet and a flow of 720 GPM, and it is consuming 30 kilowatt per hour. And now see, we have retrofitted the older pumps with a new pump, and see, we are not compromising on the head, and the flow is 120 GPM extra. But see, the energy consumption is half, nearly half. And one more thing is that we can change the flow according to our wish, based on the ambient temperature of the atmosphere, at the same time cooling demand of the building. So we can again reduce this 16.6 to maybe 10.6 or even to 7.6 based on the cooling demand that the facility requires. So the annual expenditure that the hospital was spending for the pumps was 15 lakh rupees, 15.8 lakh rupees. After introducing the new pump, it went down to 8 lakh 76,000 rupees. So that is the difference, magnitude of difference. So next, the hot water pump. So hot water, in hospitals, hot water is a must. They might be using it for sterilizing, laundry, and a lot of other purposes. But what they are following a bad practice. They are either using diesel-fired boilers or electric boilers, which is consuming 3 times more energy than the new or the modern equipment. That is known as heat pump. Heat pump is only consuming 1/3 of the energy compared to the electric boilers as well as the diesel-fired boilers. So this is actually, it can simultaneously generate hot water as well as the cold water, and hot water can be supplied to the buildings by storing it in tanks and circulating it throughout the building. And for cold water is supplied to the chiller, which can ultimately reduce the load of the chiller, and this can also impact savings on your energy bill. And I'm asking you whether it's profitable or not after seeing all this. Do you think this is profitable? I think it's. So I'm saying yes. And how? For healthcare sector, so it's first for healthcare sector, even 10% reduction would imply a saving up to 800 million every year to cater to capex requirement of setting up a 150 tertiary care hospital. So if you are saving energy throughout the whole hospitals in India, even if it's a 10% reduction in the energy bills, you will be able to put up a new hospital with 150 beds. And the next benefit for the hospital, individual hospital, is that you can generate savings through which you can generate money, and you can utilize that money to buy medical equipment, state-of-the-art medical equipments for your facility to improve the infrastructure. So you are generating revenue, at the same time you are improving the infrastructure, your own. You don't have to rely on any other resources, or you don't have to spend extra money. You can create the savings through which you can generate money, through which you can improve your infrastructure of the hospital. And for nation, you can put less strain on the power plants as well as the government. Though the electricity demand is increasing day by day because of the increase in the number of buildings. But we don't have to. We just have to make some changes. We just have to follow some practices, and we have to focus on energy efficiency rather than other techniques. And for us, if one single hospital is eliminating energy wastage, then it can power 1,000 houses. So that is the impact. So, and it can eliminate frequent blackouts also. And I have one friend. He's a doctor. He told me that when the infrastructure of a particular hospital is improved, they have to pull in more money, and they have to buy a lot of equipments, so that they have to increase the healthcare cost. And it is not reflecting on them, it's reflecting on the people who are coming there to get the treatment. And why this is happening? So you can reduce the healthcare cost by simply generating savings in your facility. And for environment, you can reduce the carbon footprint. And our solution that we are having two business models. One is Joule Pays and another one is DJoule. In Joule Pays, you don't have to spend even a single penny to improve infrastructure on HVAC systems. We will be doing it from our end, and whatever savings we are generating, we will be taking a share of that. That's all. So you don't have to put any money in the facility. We will be putting the money, and we will be generating the savings. If you are not saving, we are not going to get paid. That's all. So it's completely our responsibility and zero risk for you. And the next one is DJoule. You can put DJoule. DJoule is our building monitoring system, which is following AI and IoT based, artificial intelligence and IoT based. It can take self-action to take actions to eliminate energy wastage on its own by putting some simple commands in the software. And you can monitor in the data in real time, and you can make some changes in the system so that you can bring savings altogether. And what are some hospitals doing under Smart Joules? So in one of our clients is Sun Permanent Hospital. Till now, they have saved with 28%, 2.9 crore savings in 36 months for 3 years, and their average savings is 28%. And for the month of July, the maximum savings is 38.2%, and you have to notice that in July, it is summer, and we have generated more savings in that particular month. And core benefits of efficiency. So these you can, we will promote your brand, hospital brand. We'll be maintaining your equipment and your facility. We'll be providing manpower from our side. And comfort will not be compromised at any cost. And you'll be getting huge benefits in terms of money. This is a bill before Smart Joule. So this was the bill that I've shown in the first slides, one of the first slides. And before Smart Joules, in the month of October for the year of 2015, the energy bill was 46.75 lakhs. And the number of beds was 600 at that time, and built-up area was 47,500. After Smart Joules, on the year 2016, the energy savings we have obtained was 10.5%. And see, moving from 16, 17, 18, the energy bill came from 46.75 lakhs to 28.42 lakhs. That is, we have saved 18 lakh rupees in 1 month for the year of 2018. And see, we are continuously exploring the ways to eliminate energy wastage and to bring energy efficiency to the system. From 10.5, we have raised to 31.4% savings, then it is now raised to 38.3% savings. And now we are targeting 50% savings for that particular hospital. And I have to add one more point, that that hospital initially had 600 beds when we entered there, and now it is having more than 100 beds because they have increased the infrastructure. On the other hand, they have put up new buildings, they have increased their connected load, but still it's not going up, it's only coming down only. So that's what we are doing. And awards and recognition, and our clients got national awards on different platforms. And these are our happy customers throughout India who is enjoying the benefits. See, and 2 more hospitals are now in this list. One is Apollo Hospital, which is in Ahmedabad, and another one is Max Healthcare Gurgaon, which is our latest project. And our mission is to eliminate energy wastage through innovations in continuous energy optimization. And we started as a team of 4. Now and when I joined Smart Joules, it was a team of 50. Now it has gone up to 100 members. And our only mission is to eliminate energy wastage. And these are the recognitions that we got worldwide. And this is the team which is behind that success. And I hope when you leave this room, you will feel like you saving energy, because whenever you go out from this room, you don't want to commit a crime from now on. And if you don't want to commit a crime, you can call us. We are there to help you to save energy or to cut down energy cost in your facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Faris. Do you have any questions to Faris on their smart idea? The smart business, actually.
Okay.
Something to do with the distribution panel. Like suppose it's a long building.
Okay.
If you put the distribution at one end of the building versus if you put it at the middle,
Okay.
is there something related to preventing wastage by placing the distribution panel
In between.
Yeah.
In between.
Is it that significant?
No, it's not that significant. For longer distribution only, the losses will be there. For small distance, it's not that.
Sorry,
not that
use the mic.
bigger
Use the
impact.
mic. Use the mic. Mic.
Okay. And any more questions?
I wondered who in the hospital
Hmm.
initiates this kind of exploration?
Exploration.
Is it an interested doctor? Is it a nurse? Is it a board member?
Hmm.
Chair of the board? Who gets the idea to do this?
Who gets the idea? I'm not getting the point. Huh.
Not everyone is energy conscious.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they want to save money, right? What they are spending. So on that basis, they will approach us. And through that, you are getting co-benefits. That is energy savings. No, we are not focusing on houses because most of the energy is wasted in commercial buildings only. That's why we are focusing on that area. But we are trying to do a research on that side also, because in Kerala, most of like 50%, more than 55% of the energy which is being distributed is consumed by domestic households only. So we want to, we are trying, we can follow simple techniques like changing the fans, putting energy efficient lights. Those can bring lot of changes in your energy bills, rather than going with solar with huge capex investment and all. Yeah, we are based in Delhi, but Yeah, absolutely. I agree that. Domestic things. Yeah, we will focus on that, but still, like, we have to see, for example, in your building, you will be focusing on less energy consuming equipment or more energy consuming equipment. Why? No. L- hmm? To generate, to, like, for example, your fan is one of the less energy consuming equipment, and you are having a chiller also. But do you focus on fan to generate energy saving so that you'll go and turn it off and turn it on at the right time, and you'll try to do that, or you try to turn off the chiller and on? What you will do? You will focus on the bigger one only, right? That's why we are focusing on bigger ones right now.
I think, Swati, to your question, I think home is a lot of behavioral change again. Here you can bring a systematic change in the chiller plants, in the AHU air handling units, in the motors which we use. So corporate facilities and facilities like this, I think you can bring a systematic change. To some extent, behavior is very important because the individuals know who are using it. Even if this hall is going to be free for half an hour, if you can switch off some of the lights, you're going to save energy. But this is very important. Now where you have 800 fans running, if you can change all that to the smart fans, or the super fans or the other one, what motor is that?
BLDC, brushless DC motor.
BLDC motor. It will be so energy efficient. You're spending more money in buying that fan, but within a year, you're going to get the money back. But some of the fans, if you see, they'll run for 10 to 15 years, you may not change a fan. It's the same way if you're going for 5-star rating air conditions. Instead of taking 2-star, if it's going to run for 18 hours, 20 hours a day, in hotels or in hospitals, if the patient is there, it's always going to run, right? At home, you will run only for 6 hours, 8 hours. Then you'll switch it off in the morning, or you'll put a... So things like that. Even a set temperature is so important. I was recently talking with one of the teams they did. Just by putting at set temperature, they have reduced their bill by 1 lakh rupees. Because each one keeps their own set, 16, 18, 20. And then you leave it like that. Sometimes it's very cool, you just try to switch off the blower but not the air conditioner, or change the set. Just by putting a set temperature of 24 or 25, what is normally needed, you can be so energy efficient. So somewhere you have to start. I think they have started with the hospitals. Brad, you have any question? Brad, you want any super fan?
All those things. Okay. I will give you my number. Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So brilliant. Before we finish, I just have the recorded presentation from Casey. I think you've come at the right time to...
And I'm honored to be here today to share with you a little bit of my work in environmental sustainability in medical systems. So today I'm going to talk about eye care service delivery, but particularly carbon footprinting within that realm. But before I branch into carbon footprinting, I wanted to first have you think about systems in general. So systems thinking, I always start with this with my students. It's really important when you're trying to solve large problems like greenhouse gas emissions. Outside of just the greenhouse gas emissions, hospital care is usually part of a pretty complex system. So I would typically ask, if I were there, I would actually ask you to raise your hands and tell me, what's required to perform a cataract surgery? What kinds of things do we need? Gave you a brief moment to think about it, but because I'm not there, I'm going to give you the answers that I could see while I was observing cataract surgeries. So the first thing is really trained professionals. You need to have people who know what they're doing to safely perform these procedures. They need to have a space to perform those procedures. That can be very different across the world, but usually it's a physical building that has some form of air conditioning or heating, ventilation, and certainly electricity. So all these things are needed. You need supplies, both reusable and disposable, and those supplies have to be manufactured. These are manufacturing of reusable instruments. Those reusable instruments, after they're used, have to be sterilized. That is its own process, which needs trained professionals and a system in place to maintain safety. The disposable supplies are also manufactured. There's a lot of those every day moving through the world. They have to be sterilized and then brought into the various operating theaters. Once those items are used, they have to be disposed. So this could mean incineration. This could mean landfilling. This is a landfill in the central United States where a lot of our medical waste goes. And of course you need the patient. Can't really perform the surgery without someone on whom to perform it. So this is also a crucial element. And to get the patient there, they have to be transported along with all those other goods and the removal of waste. So there's a lot of transportation in this system. I wanted to start out with that systems thinking because that's usually the core of how we calculate carbon emissions. You have to understand the whole system. And carbon emissions are really this one metric by which we can measure environmental sustainability. So the way we do this is to use a tool called life cycle assessment. It basically quantifies the environmental emissions of a product or process. So it starts out looking at raw material extraction, transportation to a manufacturing facility where those products are produced or the electricity is generated, those things further transported to the hospital where we might reuse some of the supplies, but ultimately we'll end up throwing out many of the supplies. And so this is what would be considered a life cycle of a product, or in this case, many products. And life cycle assessment says, okay, there's inputs at every one of these stages. We need materials, we need energy, and there's outputs. There's waste that's generated, and then there's emissions. So things like carbon emissions or greenhouse gases. Other air pollutants are generated at each step in this process. There's water pollutants and potentially even heavy metals that end up in the soil. And life cycle assessment sums up all of those different emissions into a single number, like a carbon footprint. And so that's how we calculate out these environmental emissions. And it's useful for us because, one, we can identify where there's hotspots in a system, right? Which elements of this system seem to have the largest proportion of emissions. And it also lets us compare different systems performing similarly. So one of the earlier papers is a carbon footprint of cataract surgery based in the UK. And their findings show that over half of the carbon emissions came from the procurement of supplies. Now in the UK, a lot of those supplies are single-use and disposable. Based on my previous work looking at hysterectomy and other surgeries in the US, this was not surprising. Most of our emissions are coming from those single-use supplies. When I read this study, I wanted to know what emissions would look like in a place where they weren't using disposable supplies in the same way that they tend to in the UK or the US, and that took me to Aravind Eye Care System. So you've heard from Dr. Venkatesh, and I believe you'll hear from him again afterwards. I worked with Dr. Venkatesh in 2014 and 2015 as a Fulbright Fellow and looked at their process of care delivery and estimated the carbon emissions. And these were some of the results. So you'll see that the procurement of medical equipment is still a relatively large proportion of Arvind's emissions, but Arvind's emissions per phacoemulsification are far lower than the phacoemulsification emissions in the UK. This would be the equivalent of driving a car about 500 kilometers versus 25 kilometers. It's the same quantity of emissions. So big difference in the way that care is provided in terms of the emissions. But what was nice about working with Aravind is that they already have published peer-reviewed literature on their outcomes. So we know that for things like endophthalmitis, Aravind is performing actually a little bit better than the UK and the US. And so we know that the process is effective. It delivers good care. And it has the benefit here, we see, of reducing this carbon footprint. So ultimately, it's reducing the impact on public health, in addition to performing very well for that individual patient. And this is where I really want to get you thinking about your systems, your care delivery systems, and how you might refine it, because anything that we can do to prevent some of these large public health issues will be very beneficial in the long run. We know that climate change is a big issue. There are certainly other issues. India has a lot of air quality and water quality issues, and medicine plays a part in that negative impact. But they can be part of the solution as well. So when you're thinking about designing efficient care, the very first step is to really think about what you want to accomplish and where you might have the biggest impact. So before I really talk about the clinical side, I want you to know that it's not just clinical care that has these emissions. That's one factor, and it's certainly a large factor. But you may also think about non-clinical aspects. So in this case, the hospitals that I work with, they think about their food chain, right? They're feeding a lot of people, so they will often try to find healthier food, maybe local or organic foods, things that promote health. They look at energy reduction initiatives that have nothing to do with the clinical space, and also greening their hospitals. This is a green roof, and you can see some gardens. Those types of things have actually been found to help in healing. Now, if you're all in ophthalmology, that might not be as big of an issue. It depends on what kind of facility you're operating in. But it's just to think about the larger options available. It's not all clinical issues. This is everything in that large healthcare system. You might think solely about the facilities or the utilities. Can you switch to solar hot water or just solar panels in general? Or you might think about the process and the supplies, more the operations end of things, and this movement of materials through that space. And once you've kind of come up with some ideas on that front, you should actually go out and look at the literature. Go see what's out there. And beyond literature, you might have some really good solutions right in-house. Right? You're working with a lot of different people. And every one of those people is an expert at the thing that they do. And they'll know if something is inefficient or not effective. And so it's really important to build up this interdisciplinary body that looks at these kinds of improvements. So it might be people who are working in infection control or some sort of compliance regulatory agency. You definitely work with your clinicians, that's nurses and physicians, mid-level ophthalmic professionals, everyone who's involved in the clinical care. It might be your pharmacy, your supply chain, waste management, building services, right? Who's handling this waste on the downstream, but getting them all together at the table. I'm an engineer, so a lot of the solutions that I come up with are only as good as the people I'm working with, right? I can point out the problems, but pointing to the solutions really requires a big team to understand how that solution is going to affect the whole system. So listen to your colleagues and peers. They may have very excellent ideas. There are other resources out there. This is the International Agency for Prevention of Blindness Environmental Sustainability Working Group. We're putting together documents and other kinds of resources for IAPB members. There's also the Royal College of Ophthalmology has a similar work group, and there's a lot of resources specific to eye health. You can do a lot of reading. There's a lot of literature out there. That can be papers in peer-reviewed journals, it can be books, it can be just reports. So Global Green and Healthy Hospitals has a great network online, a good forum that you can actually go to and ask questions. It's beyond eye health, it's a much broader healthcare resource. And the Center for Sustainable Healthcare down there in the corner has a forum specifically for eye care. So you can go to their website and actually join their forum and listen into the conversations about greening ophthalmology. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what Aravind is doing to maybe inspire some ideas for your teams if you're looking at greening your clinical service delivery. So Aravind, of course, has excellent outcomes. Their rates of endophthalmitis have actually gone down since they switched their antibiotic scheme. I'll let Dr. Venkatesh explain that side. But they're designed around efficiency. So you can see in this picture there's 2 beds per 1 surgeon. That is one strategy for increasing throughput, that the physician can go between tables, so one's being operated on while the other's being prepped, and the physician can just move back and forth between those 2. So designing your physical space can actually increase efficiency to get more people through that space more effectively. And also managing the flow of supplies through that physical layout is important. So that's one important strategy to think about. There's physical constraints, certainly you might not be able to rebuild, but with the space that you have, design it in a way that things can flow through the system more easily. Task shifting is another big one, right? So Arvin employs these mid-level ophthalmic professionals in order to reduce the tasks that the surgeon has to do that aren't related to the actual surgery. So the surgeon's only doing cut to close, and these mid-level ophthalmic professionals are the ones guiding the patient in and out of the room and taking care of the supplies and those kinds of things. And that's important in order to optimize the timing of every professional that you have working for you. Standardization is another really big one. In the US, we're pretty terrible at this. Every ophthalmologist does their own thing. We might have standard sets of supplies, but that doesn't guarantee that they're all being used all of the time. And so standardization across your surgical teams and across your hospital can be really effective and a really effective way to save money and to actually reduce your carbon emissions as well. Then you're looking at efficiency, right? So reducing your waste, maximizing reuse. At Arvin, they're using multi-dose, multi-use drops. In the US, we struggle particularly with the eye drops portion of this. We're required by law to have them single use, which leads to a lot of wasted drugs. It's very unfortunate. But finding ways to reduce that waste will be also critical. And finally, most importantly, maintain your safety throughout this process. If you have an adverse outcome, that leads to a much larger carbon footprint on the whole. So do it right the first time is basically the idea. And that's a really big element of it. And so, once you have kind of some of these strategies in place for yourself, you really have to start changing. And the way to do that, really energize your team, get everyone on board who needs to be on board, get them excited, start observing what's happening, start recording it, measuring it. You need the data to be able to show that things are changing in the way that you want them to change. And to also look out for any things that are changing in ways you don't want them to change, right? This is a complex system, so you have to be aware of all of those things. And keep reporting that. Find the barriers, right? What's causing issues? And keep asking why until you figure out really what's causing that issue. So that's important with any changes that you're trying to implement. And one thing that I'd advocate for as well, particularly when you're looking at supplies and things, is to look at the total cost, right? So don't just look at the purchasing price. You should at least think of the total cost of ownership. So thinking about what's it going to cost for you to dispose of these things, what are the other costs for acquiring those items, and if it's possible to look more at the societal impact. So what are the external costs of the things that you're doing? So easy approaches. One, monitoring your waste. So you can reformulate your preference cards or custom packs if you have those kind of prepackaged supplies, and communicating with your team about not wanting to open supplies until new. That's particularly important for the physicians. Work with your whole department to standardize your approaches. Work together to improve patient throughput. Partner with people in your supply chain, with other companies, to look into the total costs of reusable items, for example. And finally, partner with waste management to look for alternate disposal options. I think India is much better with recycling, but this is something in the US we really struggle with. Harder approaches, the asterisk is there because it might not be that hard for you. It depends on your position and what your systems already like. You might redesign your process, right? Develop some task shifting. Reduce preoperative testing or patient visits. That will cut down on the number of trips patients need to have. Could you do side-by-side operating rooms, if not dual beds? And what about simultaneous bilateral cataracts? That's just something I'm throwing out there. That's more of a clinical discussion that I think surgeons need to have, but it's an interesting one that could potentially reduce on some of these emissions. There's policy shifts. In the US, we're not allowed to send antibiotics home with patients from the operating room, so that's one, but I'm not sure what the policy shifts might be in India to encourage better reuse, but that's something to think about. And finally, pressuring your suppliers and manufacturers to offer better alternatives that allow you to reduce waste and emissions. That will take longer, but it is also important. So basically, don't forget about quality outcomes. If you're not achieving the best for your patient, you're not achieving the best for the planet. That's all I have for today. I think Dr. Venkatesh will be taking any questions that you might have for me. And please feel free to email me should you have any further questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of this. So basically, we want to put it forward that if you are thinking of your patients, that is the people, yeah, 5 minutes. We are done. So you are definitely going to be friendly to the planet. And from some of these presentations, you see how it can be profitable. So the small group here, if you can take this message that being planet-friendly can be profitable, I think we can open up a lot of their eyes into some of the ways to be efficient, in providing our care to our patients, especially eye care, because of the volume and other stuff which is related to that.